Swinging a ground ball, stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first, and the Boston Red Sox are the world champions. For the first time in 86 years, the Red Sox have won baseball's world championship. Can you believe it?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fenway Files. My name is Tyler, and this is episode 13. As you've seen in the thumbnail for this video, I titled it, Marcelo Mayer has finally arrived, which kind of alludes to what we will eventually be talking about. But with it being Memorial Day weekend, before I do anything, I just want to take a quick minute to have a moment of silence. I'm going to be playing taps in just a second for all of those families who have been, who have sacrificed everything, especially all of the servicemen and women in this country, past, present, and future. Because without those individuals, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be doing this, let alone being or living in a country that has more freedoms than any other country in the world. So I'm just gonna play this. It's gonna last for about a minute, and I'm just gonna stay quiet. Alright, so to get into the contents of this episode, I do have some pretty important stuff to go over, in particular Marcelo Mayer's call-up, why he was called up, the significant injury to our key player, which caused him to be called up, quick important update about the podcast as a whole, the last two series, then we have to talk about Trevor's story because it's getting to a point where it's a problem, and it's been a problem. Where the AL East stands right now, because we have a new second place team, unfortunately. The Red Sox history minute, same as always. Then the next 7 games going forward, and then I do have a series of final thoughts. Most of them connect to how this team has been playing recently, but there is one about baseball as a whole that has been a trend for the last couple of years. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. So the important news. Marcelo Mayer has been called up from Worcester. He made his Major League debut 2 days ago. His debut game did not go the way he wanted it to, especially his first at-bat. He saw 6 pitches, never picked the bat off his shoulders, looked very uncomfortable in the batter's box, but that's the first game, jitters, get it out of your system. And then he did get his first hit in the second game, which was earlier today. So in 2 games, he did get his first hit, so that is a good sign. His defense, he looked capable with his range, but his arm strength, his first play he made at third base was basically a dribble to first base. It bounced twice before it even got there. Thankfully, Nick Sogard made a really nice pick at first to record the out, which was his first major league out recorded on defense. But hopefully, going forward, he looks a little bit better defensively because we've had those issues defensively. Now, why is Marcelo Mayer playing third base to begin with? Well, that's because Alex Bregman suffered some sort of pretty significant, pretty serious quad injury. If you're not familiar, your quad is the muscle, the really big thigh muscle, or the muscle where your thigh is in your leg. He suffered a quad injury to his right leg, in 2022, and it kept him out of the season for 2 full months. And according to Alex Bregman, this injury is a little bit worse than that, and this time it's in his left leg. So right now there's no timetable for his return, but it's looking like at least a 10-week period before he can even pick up a baseball again. So as of right now, Marcelo Mayer is your third baseman for the foreseeable future. That also means that we have a gaping hole the size of North Korea in our lineup, and right now there are no solutions for it. Our lineup, the way it's constructed, looks extremely, extremely thin. Sorry, I'm having an issue with my camera really quickly. Pardon my interruption. Thank you. So, yeah, our lineup looks extremely, extremely thin right now. We have Jared Duran at the leadoff, and then Rafael Devers, Wilyer Abreu, and then literally Carlos Narvaez. Put show thumb down. Carlos Narvaez is our cleanup hitter, which I love Carlos Narvaez. He has been fantastic since the start of the year. He's leading almost all rookies outside of Jacob Wilson in average, homers, exit velocity, and he's leading all catchers in baseball in defensive run saves. So he's been the best defensive catcher in baseball, but he's not your typical cleanup hitter. So right now our lineup is drastically thin because we are missing Alex Bregman. It doesn't help that we have players who are really struggling, who are not supposed to be struggling, who this team's supposed to be reliant on, that are not performing even close to major league level. So Marcelo Mayer right now is the third baseman going forward for probably the next 2 months, bearing some sort of drastic, God forbid, an injury to him or any other player. Right now, we have no other solution at third base. So Marcelo Mayer is the third baseman going forward, and Alex Bregman is going to be down for at least 10 weeks. So it's not looking good on the injury front. That only makes the injury problems we have with our rotation even worse, because now we go from an injured rotation and a good lineup to a pretty banged up lineup and a pretty banged up rotation. So right now this team's hurting physically, mentally, emotionally, all ways around. This team's really just, there's a dark cloud over Fenway. The important update I wanted to get to on the podcast is the fact that I am now available on Apple Podcasts, which more than 40% of the world watches their podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So the fact that I was able to apply and get approved to be on that podcast is a pretty big deal, at least in my eyes. It does also allow me to spread my reach to a larger audience, which if I'm trying to get as many followers and listeners to the channel as possible, this is a great way to do it. So you'll now be able to hear me or watch me. You'll mainly be able to watch me on YouTube. I'm trying my best to get just audio files on Spotify and Apple Music going forward. That way it's the most streamlined, where you're not watching me, you're more just listening to me, which many of you watch a couple of minutes of this and then turn it off, and that's totally fine. I appreciate the support regardless. But now you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And if there are any further additions, like Amazon or anything like that, I will be making a statement on Twitter or X about that. So with that being said, moving on to a recap of the last 9, or really 8 days of games. We had 2 series. We played one against the Mets, which the Mets were coming in as the best, or one of the best teams in the National League. And then we had a series, a 4-game, a longer series against the Orioles. The Orioles were coming in as statistically the worst team in the American League when it comes to wins and loss. Their winning percentage was literally the worst in the American League coming into our first game. So the Mets series as a whole, I'm not going to break down every game. I'm not going to break down every win, every loss. Plain and simple, our offense looked really good, and this was before the Bregman injury. And our pitching looked fantastic. Our starting pitching, and especially our bullpen, looked really good. And we also did a pretty good job at keeping Juan Soto at bay. When I say that, we didn't give up any home runs to Juan Soto. He didn't have any late game heroics or anything like that. It does help when he's not hustling out of the box. He's kind of just existing on the team, doesn't really seem to be caring. But I do think that the series win against the Mets, we did win the first two, lost the series finale. I do think that series says more about how the Mets have been performing recently than not necessarily how the Red Sox have been performing. I think we caught the Mets at a downtime for them, and we were able to take advantage of that. With that being said, there were some good things that came out of it. Our bullpen seemed to get back in their rhythm. They seemed to figure out how to throw strikes again. And they seemed relatively consistent. Now, there was a problem that came out of the Mets series, and I do want to address it really quickly. Liam Hendriks in the last game did not look very good. He did give up, I don't want to say a lead, but he basically cost the team the game in the last game of the series. And then as a result, he was receiving death threats online, and he was also receiving threats against his wife online. And if you are one of those scumbags that was going out of their way to threaten a player and his family online over the game of baseball, you are a piece of garbage, because there is no reason why anybody should be getting threatened or having their family threatened over a blown save or a bad outing. I mean, for the love of God, we play 162 games. Let the guy have a break. It's bad enough he had cancer. It's bad enough he came back from Tommy John. Get off the dude's ass, all right? Now, I understand that Liam Hendriks is also frustrated with the team because we're not using him, and he's speaking out to the reporters, but there is absolutely zero excuse why anybody should be sending him death threats, and especially his family. There is no place in baseball for it, and if you are one of those people, you are a piece of shit. I'm sorry, but you are. Now, the Orioles series was really weird because it was a 4-game series that most of the games were postponed because of rain, and it was originally supposed to be a doubleheader on Saturday that turned into a doubleheader on Sunday that turned into a mess on Monday. So with, doubleheader on a game on Thursday, doubleheader on Friday, that ended up being a doubleheader on Saturday that ended up causing a bunch of problems on Sunday. So on Thursday was basically the highlight of our week, and the reason why I say that, what is going on here? Hold on. Oh, don't do this right now, dude. Please don't do this to me. Just a moment, my computer is lagging like crazy. So, our game that was on Thursday was originally postponed to Friday. We ended up having a doubleheader on Friday in which only one of those games was played. The first game was played Friday at 1:30, and the final score was 19-5 in favor of the Red Sox. Now, that score sounds really lopsided. Rafael Devers had a grand slam. The Red Sox were losing 2-0 in one point in that game. We went on to score 11 runs in the 7th inning, and Rafael Devers hit a grand slam off of a position player. Abraham Toro ended up being the final pitcher in the game for the Red Sox. So, we scored 19 runs. That's going to look great for our run differential. Our offense seemed to figure out what the hell was going on with them, except it really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things because most of our runs came off of a position player in the 7th. And part of my frustration with that game in general is the fact that we went on Saturday in the morning game because the Friday night game was postponed until Saturday morning. We ended up winning the second game, 6-5, on a walk-off in the bottom of the 10th, and that walk-off was absolutely stupid because you have a runner on second base, the ghost runner, no outs, Rafael Devers comes to the plate. Everybody in their right mind would walk him. What does the Orioles manager do? Decide to throw him a nutball in the middle of the zone. And what does he do with it? Hits a double, wins the game. Like, it was the most predictable, if you pitch to him, you're going to lose the game scenario I've ever witnessed. So, Saturday morning's loss 100% comes down to the Orioles manager being an absolute moron. After that walk-off, where all of the vibes are high, we had 2 straight wins, 19-5 and 6-5. Our offense goes completely silent. In the final game of the doubleheader on Saturday, we lose 2-1, only scoring 1 run against the Orioles, one of the worst teams in baseball. And then today, we lost 5-1 against one of the worst teams in baseball in their atrocious pitching staff. Now, when I tell you they are an atrocious pitching staff, they are in the bottom 3%. So there are 27 teams better than them statistically when it comes to starting pitching and bullpen. Their bullpen ERA is through the roof. Their starters cannot go deep into games, and we only managed to score 2 runs in 2 games off of them. Now, that speaks to Alex Bregman being out of the lineup since that Friday morning game. That also speaks to our offense going completely silent and having absolutely no life in them whatsoever. Part of the problem, and this kind of leads right into the next segment, is the fact that Trevor Story is one of, if not, the worst player in Major League Baseball at the moment. Worst position player. He, over his last 30 games, he is batting .151 with 18 hits, a home run, 7 RBIs, and 11 runs scored. 4 of those RBIs came in that 19-run win. So when you look at his numbers over the past month and a half, he is statistically one of the worst players in baseball. The league average for WRC Plus is 100. If you are over 100, let's just say you are 105, you are 5% better than everybody else in the league. Trevor Story's WRC Plus is 12, meaning there are 78% of the league is better than Trevor Story offensively. And everybody says, oh, Trevor Story is supposed to be this great defensive-minded lockdown defender. Well, guess what? He really isn't. When you look at his Baseball Savant page, aside from the sea of disgusting blue that pops up, really quick with his offensive numbers, his expected batting average is in the 15th percentile, meaning that 75% of the league is better than him. His expected exit velocity is 43%. The only thing that he has red on his batting Baseball Savant page is his hard hit percentage, which is at 47.1%, which is 72 or the 72nd percentile. His bat speed is 30th percentile. His chase rate is 6th percentile. His K rate is 6th percentile. He is striking out on the season at a 30% rate. That is absolutely unacceptable. Now, to get to his defense, which is supposed to be the only reason why he's on this team, his entire career, he has been a good defender, like, period. In 2019, he had 14 defensive runs saved. Right now, he is at -3. His range, he is 7th percentile at -4, meaning that he is basically one of the worst defenders in the sport at his position. And his arm strength has been atrocious. If you watched any of the games from the 2 Baltimore losses, his arm strength could be attributed to at least one of them. So the fact that they continue to throw out Trevor Story, knowing that he's batting 151 over his last 30 games with 1 extra base hit, which was that home run, that's simply not acceptable from a fan perspective, from a outside perspective looking at his numbers. He's simply not a major league player anymore. And he started the season great. That's fantastic. He is clearly no longer the player he used to be. And now that his defense is starting to cost the Red Sox games, he needs to find another team to play for. I don't care if it's the Woo Sox. I don't care if it's the Portland fucking Sea Dogs. You need to get him off of this team because right now all he's doing is taking up a roster spot. He is not benefiting this team in any way, shape, or form. And you can no longer say, oh, well, he's the clubhouse leader. He's the person that the young kids turn to. That's Alex Bregman's job now. Get Trevor Story off of this team. Use that roster spot for Roman Anthony, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, with that being said, the end result, we took 2 against the Mets, won that series 2-1, and then we split the 2 games with Baltimore. We won the first 2, lost the last 2. Right now, we are back to under 500. We are 27-28 with a winning percentage of .491. We are 5-5 in our last 10. 2-game losing streak, and we are 6.5 games back in the division. We are 2.5 games back of the wild card now that the wild card picture is finally out. So our current division is as followed. The New York Stankies in first place, 32-20, 8-2 in their last 10, first in the division. They are 18-9 at home. Go figure, because you literally play in a Little League stadium. Then we have a brand new number 2, the Tampa Bay Rays, who are an even 500 at 26-26. They are 6 games back of the Yankees, 2 games back in the wild card, and they are 7-3 in their last 10 in the middle of a 5-game winning streak. In third place are the Red Sox. I've already gone over their stats. They're 5-5, 2-game losing streak. I will point out that in the division, the Red Sox have scored the second most runs. Only behind the Yankees, we've scored 267, and the Yankees have scored 296. We have a run differential of positive 18, which that 19-5 victory kind of helps make look a lot better. In fourth place are the Toronto Blue Jays. They are 25-27. They have a .481 winning percentage. They are 7 games back of the Yankees, 3 games back in the wild card, in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and they are 4-6 in their last 10. They have only scored 205 runs, but they have only allowed 232, so their run differential is -27. And then the Baltimore Orioles, which were one of the worst teams in the league, are 18-34 with a winning percentage of .346. They are 3-7 in their last 10. They are in the middle of a 2-game winning streak off of us, and they are 14 games back of the division and 10 games back of the wild card. So their season's essentially over. Their run differential is also -95. So right now, it looks like in the American League, the Detroit Tigers are the best team in baseball with 34 wins and 20 losses, with the best winning percentage at .630. The team with the highest run differential are the New York Yankees, but that's also because they have scored the most runs in baseball, with 296. I'm sorry, the second most runs in baseball, the Chicago Cubs, have scored 321 runs. Right now, it looks like there's no one team, American League or National, that are insanely out in front. Like the Phillies are 34-19, but the Tigers are 34-20. So it all depends on which way you are looking. But right now, if the playoffs started today, the Red Sox are not in the playoffs, but we are way to out in front talking about that anyway. Right now, the way the wild card sits, you have the Guardians 1 game ahead, tied with the Twins, who are 1 game ahead, and the Kansas City Royals. The Astros, Rays, Red Sox, and Rangers are all 0.5, 2, 2.5, and 3 games back. All of the teams outside of the Cleveland Guardians in the American League have a positive run differential that are in the playoffs currently. Cleveland Guardians have a negative 11 run differential. They simply are not scoring a lot of runs. But the reason why they're in first place, or they have the first wild card spot, is because they are not allowing runs to be scored in the first place. But that's because of their insane bullpen. So, to move on to the next thing, we have the Red Sox History Minute, which I do have a quick tidbit for, which this one I do find kind of interesting. So today being May 25th, in 1906, Jesse Tannerhill pitches a two-hitter against Chicago as Boston wins 3-0, snapping a 20-game losing streak. That was the longest losing streak in American League history at the time, and 19 of those 20 losses were at Fenway Park. So I just thought that was a cool little tidbit for you. Going forward, we have a road trip ahead of us, unfortunately. We have 3 games against the Brewers, which concern me because their offense is really good. And then we have 3 games against the Braves, who we just played. And because we've just played them, I am able to look at some of their stats, where we struggled, and why we struggled. So, as I mentioned, we are playing the Brewers. Now, the Brewers are 4th in their division at 26-28. However, excuse me, that was so gross. However, I think that is attributed to playing in a relatively difficult division, with the Cubs and St. Louis only being 2 games separated from one another. Overall, their offense is pretty decent. They do have a good rookie, Jackson Chourio, who is basically the face of the team. Now, their pitching isn't phenomenal, but their bullpen is pretty back-heavy. Now, they did lose Devin Williams to the Yankees in free agency, but as a whole, I see the Brewers as a potential playoff team if they play up to their potential. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who's going to be pitching outside of the first game because of all of the injuries to all of our arms and all of our bullpen basically being exhausted in the last 6 games. There's a chance that the person who is starting the second game against the Brewers is currently down in Worcester. So I can't tell you right now who the second starter is because the first starter and the third starter have been announced, which I find to be really weird. The fact that we have announced the opening and the closing starter, but not the second game starter. So tomorrow, we have Garrett Crochet versus, what was this dude's name? It was a name I am not familiar with. Chad Patrick. Chad Patrick is 2-4 with a 3.23 ERA and 45 strikeouts. Now, I'm going to look at his Baseball Savant page really quickly. He's a righty, so that does benefit us because we struggle against lefties. The only thing that concerns me is the fact that his fastball is in the 96th percentile in run value, meaning that teams don't score a lot of runs off of his fastball. His barrel percentage and the lack of barrel percentage is really high at 77th percentile at 5.7% of pitches thrown meeting the barrel of the bat. Outside of that, he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. He's got a 20.3% strikeout percentage. Not a lot of whiffs at only 20.7. Not a lot of chase. Not pretty high exit velocity at almost 90. His fastball velocity is at 94, so it's not like he's throwing 100 miles an hour. But he does have a 5-pitch mix. He's heavy cutter, fastball, sinker. Now, this team is notoriously bad at hitting the fastball, and looking at his arsenal usage and where he likes to use it. He likes to throw cutters and four-seamers up in the zone and change-ups and sliders down and away. So he has the potential to have a lot of swing and miss, and because of how much the Red Sox have that swing and miss in their game, there's a chance that their pitchers look better than they actually are. We do have Garrett Crochet going for us in the opener, and I am praying to God, knowing that how taxed our bullpen is, that Alex Cora lets Garrett Crochet go into the 7th inning regardless of what his pitch count is. Now, obviously, if it's above 120, then that's one thing. But if he is at like 85 pitches in the 6th, let him keep going, because our bullpen needs a frickin' break. Right now, we don't have any days off until next week. That consistent rain postponement has basically forced our team to play 4 games in 3 days, then immediately start a road trip in Milwaukee. So it's not great for our bullpen if Alex Cora pulls him after 4.5 or 5 innings. Brian Bayo is the starter in the finale. That is the only information about this series I can give you, because the team has not given a starter for the second game. There have been no starters announced for the Braves, but it is probably going to be a combination of Lucas Giolito, Walker Buehler, and Hunter Dobbins in some order of those 3. It's not going to be Garrett Crochet, and it's not going to be Brian Bayo, so that really only leaves those 3 individuals. Is there a chance that Garrett Crochet pitches the last game of the Braves series? Maybe, but I doubt it. So in my best educated guess, Game 2 against the Brewers is probably going to be a bullpen game unless we call somebody up from the minors. I would say it would be... why am I blanking on his name? Give me just a second. I would say that... holy crap, I'm in the middle of a brain fart. We just sent down... thank you. Sean Newcomb was the person who I would say is going to be the starter in Game 2, except he was just designated for assignment and is now in Worcester, so that Luis Guerrero could come up and be involved in today's game. Now, maybe that means that there's a corresponding move and Sean Newcomb comes back up, but I don't know. But right now there is no Game 2 starter announced, and there have been no starters announced for either side of the Braves series. Now, that Braves series is a little interesting because we just played the Braves. We had Sale versus Crochet. Sale looked lights out. Crochet looked really shaky. We lost the opener. That was the Crochet-Sale game. Then we won the Saturday game and then lost 10-4. Overall, we did not prevent the Braves from scoring a lot of runs, and the Braves just got back Ronald Acuna Jr. So it doesn't look great for the Red Sox going into that Braves series, but hopefully they can turn the corner. Now, right now, this team, as I've stated already, is hurt. I've kind of already said my piece with that. But with that being said, that kind of leads us right into the final thoughts. Marcelo Mayer struggled in his first game, but he seemed like he knew what he was doing in the second. I've kind of already said my piece on his defense. They need to bring up Roman Anthony ASAP. I don't know how many more times I need to say it. I don't know what else needs to happen. I don't know what Craig Breslow and Alex Cora are waiting for. If you would have told me last year that Marcelo Mayer would have gotten the call up to the majors before Roman Anthony, I would have told you were smoking crack. And because of the injury to Alex Bregman, Marcelo Mayer is now the starting third baseman, but we have a lack of depth in our lineup that has not looked this bad since the 2020 season, which was one of the worst teams not only in Red Sox history but in baseball that season. We need to make adjustments. We need to move people around. We need to get Trevor Story off of this team. And we need Roman Anthony on this roster tomorrow. Now, with that being said, my lineup would be the following. Duran in center, Devers at DH, Abreu in right, Narvaez at catcher, Roman Anthony in left, Christian Campbell at first, Marcelo Mayer at second, Ceddanne Rafaela at short, and Nick Sogard at third. There is a lot of youth and a lot of swing and miss, 6 through 9, but I think you can even move Campbell up to clean up, move Narvaez down. You could move Rafaela up to the 7 spot, but I think that lineup gives your team the best opportunity to win with all of the injuries we have on this team right now. With that lineup construction, Trevor Story is not on the Red Sox. He is either traded, cut, sent down, released altogether. I don't care. I literally don't care if the local McDonald's down on, or the Raising Cane's on Lansdowne Street or Boylston Ave says, will you take a 4-piece tender box for Trevor Story? I will be saying yes to that every second of the day. That would have Hamilton as the speedy bench piece. That would have Abraham Toro rotating with Campbell if need be. That would also keep Ref Snyder on the bench to hit lefties in the outfield if anybody needs a break. So with that lineup construction, I genuinely think that that gives the Red Sox the best chance to win. And my second to last final thought is the fact that our bullpen overall outside of today's game looks like they have figured out their shit. Alex Bregman. Aroldis Chapman is still dominant as always. Garrett Whitlock, although he has been shaky, has looked better than he did at the beginning of the season. Justin Slayton is finally back to normal. Liam Hendricks has looked a lot better. And our starting pitching just simply has not gone deep enough into games. Lucas Giolito, who I have said numerous times doesn't belong on this roster, went the furthest into a game in the last 2 weeks. He went into the 7th inning. That's just simply unacceptable from our starting pitching. The last thought I have, and this excuse me, this correlates to why our bullpen is so taxed. The umpires in Major League Baseball have gotten ridiculously terrible. If you watched the Walker Buehler game, he was ejected in the 3rd inning along with Alex Cora because of a missed call by the home plate umpire. And Walker Buehler asked the umpire behind home plate, was that a ball or a strike? And the umpire said that was a ball. It was right down the middle. Okay, it literally couldn't have been more of a strike. It was right down Broadway. And the only reason why the umpire missed the call is because Carlos Narvaez tried to catch the runner at second base who was stealing, Francisco Lindor, and missed. Now, because Walker Buehler was thrown out in the final game of that Mets series, our bullpen had to be exhausted coming into the Orioles series. And then it was 1 4 1/3 after 1 4 1/3 after 7. So it simply just cost our entire bullpen the chance at rest. And because we had to essentially have a bullpen game to end the Mets series, we went into the Orioles series without a rested bullpen. And those rain delays and those postponed games did not help at all. It gave us a break in between the Met series and the Orioles series. But what it ultimately did was gave us a break and then clustered 4 games into 3 days. And because of that, and because of the lack of length out of our rotation, our bullpen is going into the Brewers series even more exhausted than they went into the Orioles series. So I genuinely think that Game 2 is probably going to be one of those white flag games going forward. Or not going forward, going into the Brewers series. Because we don't have the arms to have a bullpen game. So I think somebody is going to end up having to take the mound. And if there is a chance where we see a position player play any time for this team outside of Abraham Taro, because we were up 19-5, it's going to be Game 2 against the Brewers, because we simply don't have the arms and we're not getting the length out of our rotation that we should. So the only good news that came out of this week is that Marcelo Mayer has finally made his major league debut. He got his first career hit today, and the first baseman for the Orioles, you almost never see this. Instead of throwing the ball into the dugout, he grabbed the ball and handed it to him directly, basically saying, like, way to go, kid, you've made it into the league. It was one of the classiest acts that I've ever seen a major league player do for a player who just just got their first hit of their career. So kudos to that Orioles player at first. But at the end of the day, I mean, this team is once again under 500, and our hopes of accomplishing anything for this season are dwindling the further into the season we get. And even more so now that Alex Bregman is done for probably the next 2 months. What was once destined to be a great playoff team is now fighting to finish the season under 500, or above 500. So unless things change, we're talking about another season of at 500 or below 500 baseball. And that's simply unacceptable from a fan standpoint, and it should be unacceptable from a team standpoint, and it's simply not. So thank you, everybody, for watching this. Again, if you have any veterans in your family, or if you know anybody who has lost their lives fighting overseas, in the most recent past or in the last century, thank you for your service, and thank you all for watching this video, and thank you all for the support. And hopefully the Red Sox turn things around soon. Have a great rest of your night.